Don't try to sell, don't try to sell, don't try to sell. You have three options. You either become a doctor, you become an accountant, or you become an engineer. And I killed it. I absolutely killed it. And then Willamette came back and said, we're going to give you a full scholarship, right? So it was just time for me to challenge myself. I was born and brought up in Bombay. I grew up in a typical middle-class family where education is valued over everything else. And as children, we were told that, you have three options. You either become a doctor, you become an accountant, or you become an engineer, right? Pick one. I picked engineering, don't ask me why, but I think it worked out okay. Did my engineering and then moved to the US for my MBA. Our entrepreneurship journey started with my mom because she actually started a business, and in a year she did so well that she ended up actually convincing my father, like the reserved guy, to actually quit his job and join the business. Academics up until MBA was hard for me. Before, he had his own business, dad used to work at a supermarket or whatever. So from time to time, I used to go there and I used to sit at the cashier. And what I started doing without really realizing it is that I used to start having conversations with these customers who were coming through and upselling them. And I'm like, hey, why don't you buy a couple more chocolates and things like that? To put it in GrowthX terms, it's like, I was increasing the ACV of my customer, right? So I started doing that, and folks at the store, they were like, man, you really have a knack for talking to people and making connection. And I was like, yeah, I actually like that. I couldn't see myself sitting in a cubicle coding. So what I ended up doing is I was like, okay, I have to do an MBA. And then Willamette came back and said that, hey, you know what? You did so well. We're going to give you a full scholarship and we'll give you an on-campus job. And I was like, sold. Right after MBA, I ended up working at a startup in Portland, Oregon itself called Vigilo. I bombed at that because never worked really in my life, right? I mean, working at a storefront as a cashier is very different to working as an analyst in a startup. While I bombed, I think it was great because my boss there really helped me understand what it means to work and take ownership. And the second one was at Incentive, where I was employee number 2. No idea what we're doing, had never worked in healthcare. But again, I think just the most amazing set of bosses who threw me into the deep end, but were very patient. At Incentive, we had a big finalist presentation for the solution that we were selling. My boss at the time, our CTO, he's like, Robin, you're gonna do the demo. I was like, yeah, sure, it's cool. I remember very clearly standing in that room, getting ready to present, and there's about, 12 people in the room, and I'm wearing a suit, and I literally start sweating. And not just a bead trickling down here. Literally just drenched in sweat. And I don't know what's happening. So my boss is like, don't worry about it, it's fine. Just take your jacket off and go for it. I was like, okay, cool. So I do that. I start doing my demo. My computer crashes. This is a finalist presentation, right? And I may have just cost my company a few $1 million worth of the deal. I don't know what to do. I literally have no idea how this works. When this happens, what do you do? It was amazing to see my boss he's like, all right, why don't you sit down? He stood up and he just started to have a conversation with these people. And we actually still won that deal. A week after that or something, all three of us are sitting together in a room, and they're like, what happened to you will happen, has happened to each and every one of us. It's okay to feel bad, but also know that you're not the only one who's gone through that. What is important is that you learn how to deal with these situations. We moved back to India after Well Talk, and when I came back, it was more like, I wanted to come back home, be closer to family and things like that. And then, before you know it, we had the pandemic hit. So virtual selling became even more commonplace, and salespeople couldn't necessarily just wine and dine their way to a deal anymore, right? So their product had to shine. That, I think, for me was kind of the perfect storm. That I'm like, okay, I think we have to build something that will make these amazing sales reps even more successful, help them close more deals, help them hit quota. That's kind of what led to building Smartcue. Smartcue helps sales team create a library of demos based on buyer personas, use cases, industries, with the objective of delivering very tailored and contextual product demos to their prospects. What that helps sales teams do is get their buyers to the aha moment faster and inevitably reduce or compress the sales cycle. That's what I've been doing for just about a year now. I quickly realized that, hey, you know what? Okay, so I think I can have some conversations, I can even sort of drum up some business because of my network, but that's not scalable, right? How do you scale? How do you actually build a sales funnel? How do you build a pipeline of leads and conversations? That question led me to look around, and I found GrowthX. I had conversations with AP, and I realized, yes, I have no idea what this is. But I realized that this is something that I'm really going to need sooner rather than later. So when I started to raise my pre-seed for Smartcue, I started to put the word out in the community, and 2 members from GrowthX who I'd never met, just based on my outreach, based on a couple of messages back and forth. We hadn't even spoken on the phone when one of them said that, okay, I'm going to invest in you. And that kind of just blew my mind. To take it a step further, he's like, you know what? I'm going to bring my co-founder in, and I'm going to ask him as well to invest in Smartcue. The community here really rallies around each other to help, to learn, to grow. We're starting to sign up a bunch of clients, and now we're ready to sort of raise a seed round, right? So we're raising a seed round as we speak, and I'm hoping to close it by March of 2023. That's what's next, growth, right? Scaling and going to market with Smartcue.